to you guys, I'm happy to oh, there we go.
It's recording.
Look at that. Look at that.
Okay. You guys, thank you again for joining us. We have ribbon expert Ryan Lantz on. We have our branch manager, Terry Whitesell. This is the follow-up to last week's great event that we hosted at Fairway Custom Mortgage. So like I said, without further ado, Ryan and Terry, take it away.
Awesome. Thanks, CC. Really excited to be a part of today's call. So I really appreciate you guys having me on. I know Terry, CC, and the Fairway team, when we sat down just a couple of weeks back, we were just really talking about, what are the challenges that agents are facing right now in the market, right? And where can we continue to help agents problem solve, and really see this as a team, Ribbon, Fairway, the agents all collaborating on ways to help buyers pursue home ownership and win more contracts. So we're excited to jump through it today. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here so that we can kick off. Give me just a second. All right. Cool. Can you guys see my screen? All right. Let's jump into it. So nice to meet everyone on the call today. My name is Ryan Lantz. I help lead our brokerage agent and lending success team. If you have not sat through a Ribbon training before or in the past, I do want to make sure we always kick things off with, what is the mission and vision of Ribbon, right? Why do we exist in today's ecosystem? And of course, here in the Charlotte market. And that is to simply help buyers pursue home ownership. We're here to help make home ownership more achievable. And we're really excited to kind of unravel today how we do that and how you play such an important piece of the puzzle. On top of, we really wanted to share some of the experiences that the Fairway team has really gone through with the program and helping agents and buyers ultimately, win more deals, win more contracts, and pursue home ownership. So have a really tight agenda for us today. I want to walk through the Ribbon advantage, making sure that, if you've taken time out of your busy Wednesday to sit here with us and really listen to the program, we want to make sure you feel empowered leaving today's call. I really want to make sure you guys feel good about what does a Ribbon cash offer mean in the marketplace? What are the advantages? And then once we've understood what a Ribbon cash offer is, I want to make sure we map it to the different types of cash products that we actually offer. And that is like Ribbon Boost, Ribbon Reserve, and our third product, what we call Ribbon Rescue. So Terry's also going to be joining me today as a part of the panel to talk through a lot of his experiences and what he's, and also a lot of the feedback that he's gotten from borrowers and buyers, right? That way you can start to anticipate the questions that you may be asked as you're beginning to present the Ribbon option to your clients. And so once we understand that Ribbon cash offer, the cash products that you're going to have on your tool belt, I'm going to walk us through how it works. And we're going to really uncover contract to close, how each cash product plays out. Of course, what is the pricing? What are the fees involved? We're a super transparent company when it comes to that. And then how you actually get started. What can you know that your Fairway team will be able to take care of for you through the Ribbon program? And then what does the Ribbon team need to do? And what do we need from you as the agent? That way you leave today's call being able to really look at your buyer pipeline, okay, and understand which ones do you feel like would be a great opportunity for us to help convert your offers to a cash non-contingent one. Real quick, Terry, I want to just toss it to you if you want to give a quick bio, a quick intro. Really excited to join you today, man.
Yeah, you too, man. So I'm Terry Whites. I'm a branch manager here at Fairway. I've been with the company going on 7 years now. I've been in mortgage for about 15 years. Prior to that, I was in education. I was an assistant principal and principal. So kind of bring a teaching background to the mortgage business. I met Ryan about 2 years ago. I guess March of 19 was the first deal that I did with him. Since then, I've probably done about 40 deals with Ribbon over the course of that time, and have really kind of learned how to make best use of the program. It's a super program. We're closing a lot of loans using them. Right now, my business this year, the last 3 months have closed about 90 loans. I have to attribute a lot of the purchase business. I'm running about 85% purchase business. A lot of those purchases are coming because of Ribbon's help. So it's a great program. So hopefully you guys will, learn a lot about it today and be able to make great use of it.
Awesome. Let's rock and roll. So guys, what we're going to do is we're going to push through the presentation today. Terry and I will kind of jam on it, and then we're going to open it up for some Q&A. I really want to make sure that you guys have your questions taken care of coming out of today's call. So as we go through it, please feel free to drop your questions in the chat. I will keep my eyes on it and try to answer them as we go. But just for being able to push through and then get to those Q&As, I would also want to make sure you don't forget the questions that you have. So feel free to drop them in the chat. That way, when we get to Q&A time, we can go right through them. But let's go ahead and jump into it. I think I don't need to spend much time on this slide right now. I think everybody's on the call today because, this market's been challenging, right? The pace of the market is just extremely, extremely fast. Obviously, we have an inventory level, but the turnover is happening so fast, from loan application to actually finding the right property to making an offer, winning it, and closing the transaction, right? There's a lot of obviously pieces that go into that. And I think everyone on the call today can probably agree that, your buyer demand is probably through the roof right now. We have a lot of buyers that are kind of raising their hands saying, hey, I want to pursue home ownership, or sellers saying, look, I'm thinking about selling my current home and then buying my next one. But we know together on today's call that there's going to be certain challenges that face those specific clients, right? If you're a current homeowner right now looking to sell your, home A and then buy home B, you have some concerns, right? What if I sell home A too quickly? Where am I going to go? And I know I can sell home A very fast, but even if I were to become a financial contingent buyer, I may have challenges in locating my next property. So what does that mean for your sellers? Well, that means that they may be moving twice, right? They may have to get temporary housing. They may have to get temporary storage and then find their next home. And that can be a bumpy transition for clients. And obviously why we probably are all seeing sellers really sitting on the sidelines and not raising a hand, or saying, you know what, call me back in, 8 to 12 months. I'm just going to either refinance, renovate, or stay where I'm at currently. So that's kind of the buy sell dilemma, we call it internally at Ribbon. And then, your first time buyers right now, I think we can all agree that a lot of them are having to compete with cash. Obviously we're all blessed to be in such an emerging market here in the Carolinas, but that's going to come with obstacles, right? Your buyers are going to compete against cash. Obviously a lot of borrowers right now are waiving appraisal contingencies, financial contingencies, inspection contingencies, really just to level up offers in order to win more contracts. And so at the end of the day, we get it. Making a winning offer is hard. And we're excited that through this program today, you're going to have some more tools on your belt when you walk into your next listing presentation to really talk through how Ribbon can help transition your client from home A to home B, right? Make sure that you are the market expert as the real estate agent walking into that presentation, fully prepared with the options that your seller has in the market. And then of course your buyers, right? As you're sitting in and talking to your buyers, having that first initial buyer consultation, let's make sure we're talking about the Ribbon Cash program as an option on their tool belt to help them pursue home ownership. And I know Terry's got some really good insights on how he goes about that. So we're gonna jump into it. One thing I want to make sure that we uncover today is that, remember, if you're really not familiar with the Ribbon program, we're not a practicing real estate firm, right? We're not a mortgage firm. We are excited to partner with Fairway in order to help more buyers pursue home ownership. Our mission, our vision aligns with these two companies, and we are here to help you generate and grow your commissions. We don't touch a penny or percentage of that. Our tools are designed to empower you as the real estate agent. So before I kind of unravel Ribbon Cash offers, Terry, I would love for you to maybe shed some light on where are you talking about Ribbon Cash offers in your kind of process of actually receiving a loan application or understanding a buyer's needs? Where's that happening right now before we jump into the power behind a Ribbon offer?
Yeah, that conversation is usually taking place right at the very beginning as we're doing the pre-approval or pre-qualification, especially for government loan buyers. If we've got VA, USDA, FHA buyers, a lot of times those buyers right now in the market are not getting a fair shake. So they need a new strategy, a different strategy to try to help get those contracts. But also for conventional buyers, if you've got buyers in the 2 to 350 range, just about everybody's looking in that price range, then they sometimes need a different strategy too, because they may be going up against 40, 50, 60 different offers for a particular house. So we're having that conversation with just about every buyer we have right now.
Yep, that's super great. So all that to be said, guys, let's talk about, why is that conversation happening early on in the process? I want everyone on the call today to just kind of put a listing agent cap on with me. Okay. And I want you to really start to think about what it would mean to actually receive a ribbon cash offer as a seller and as a listing agent. What is the power behind our offer? Why do we give buyers a competitive edge through our cash products? Okay. When a listing agent's receiving a ribbon cash offer, we're going to remove some really important items on the contract. We're going to remove the appraisal contingency, the financial contingency, and we provide a guaranteed close once we're through the inspection period of the contract for the seller and the listing agent. And so a ribbon cash offer is a cash, non-contingent offer that has a guaranteed close for the sellers, ensuring that they have peace of mind. They can sleep great at night knowing either John Doe, the buyer on that contract, buys it, or Ribbon's cash will step in and reserve it. When we surveyed a lot of our agents, obviously there's really two things that every seller's looking at, right? What are my net proceeds if I were to take this specific offer? And what's the likelihood that this loan buyer or transaction is going to close, right? They want to know those two things. You're going to be able to go back into the market and really provide what I like to call a bulletproof offer in real estate. And I'll give you an example of what that looks like. Let's say you're a listing agent and you've received a ribbon cash offer. Remember, we always give buyers the opportunity to get their financing on closing day and take advantage of our Ribbon Boost product that we're going to uncover today. However, the sellers don't have to worry about where that appraisal comes in at, where if or not financing was delayed because of that guarantee. And so when we say we're going to help you compete against cash, we really mean it, right? We believe we're better than a standard cash offer on the table because everyone who has been a part of a transaction in real estate has probably had cash walk from you, 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 days prior to closing. A standard cash offer can walk. Obviously, they lose deposits prior to closing day. A financed offer, what has to happen? Appraisal has to happen. Financing has to happen. There's some question marks around the contract when the seller's reviewing. Remember, guys, if we back a contract and we're outside of the inspection period and 3 days prior to closing, the buyer cannot buy the house, Ribbon is on the hook to purchase the home. Your sellers get the guaranteed close. They can now move on to their next property. And that's why we're seeing even listing agents start to work to attract and receive Ribbon cash offers so that their sellers can have that peace of mind and that closing guarantee. So all that to be said, I think we've got a good understanding of what that offer means. Okay, the contingencies that are going to be removed. Okay, we now have mapped that into really 3 cash products and solutions that this program can be really kind of flexed into using. Product number 1 is what we call Ribbon Boost. Ribbon Boost is what we designed really for your first-time buyers, like Terry was mentioning, FHA, VA, conventional, who are mortgage eligible today, okay, but need to compete with cash, need to upgrade in order to win their next contract. We've also designed Ribbon Reserve, which, in the past, if you've seen our products, our marketing, which was what we kind of called the freedom to buy before you sell. Okay. Ribbon Reserve was designed for the current homeowner. The current homeowner where you walk into a listing presentation, they've got 3 kids, they've got 2 dogs, it's going to sell very quickly, but we need to make sure they know where they're going to go. And so that Ribbon Reserve product is going to allow your clients to go buy with Ribbon's cash first and then list and sell second. Right?
Brian, I'll say majority of the time when we're going in with the offer, we already have in mind which one of these options we're going to use. If I have a situation where I know I cannot beat Ribbon to the closing table, then we're going to go in with the reserve. We're going to let them purchase the house. We'll remedy whatever situation kept us from buying it initially anyway, and then we'll repurchase from Ribbon. If I know I've got a situation where I can beat Ribbon to the closing table, and Ryan will get into the fees here in just a second, but if I can beat them to the closing table, then I'm going in with the Boost program up front, and I'll let them know that.
Guys, that's really good, right? Because, that's where you'll really want to understand what's your buyer's needs. How do we want to approach it? Because as Terry mentioned, there's different ways to kind of leverage the program depending upon your buyer's specific needs. So I want to kind of show you the cash products on a real estate timeline. And I think this will help us all kind of digest how this plays out, Remember, if you go ribbon boost or ribbon reserve, it's still a ribbon cash offer that we just defined a few slides prior. I want to shed some light on how ribbon is actually attaching to your contract. Okay, remember, we are attaching to your contract via our ribbon addendum. That ribbon addendum is stating if the buyer can't get financing on closing day, ribbon has a guarantee in our transaction. We will step in on closing day. We will buy and reserve that house on behalf of the client. We would then reserve it and give the client up to 180 days or 6 months to buy back from ribbon for the exact same price that we purchased it on their behalf for. Right? So we don't upcharge the house. We do give them 6 months to fully buy back. So Terry, maybe if with the timeline in front of us, do you want to talk through maybe candidates that you've looked at for reserve and then potential candidates that you've looked at on boost? Just that way, as agents on the call are thinking it through their pipeline, they can start to map it to one of those products.
Yeah, so like conventional loan, we've got multiple offers coming in. I've got a buyer who is a W-2 employee. It's not self-employed. It's a quick and easy underwrite. It's something that I know if I need to get with underwriting and try to close something in 14 to 20 days, that we can do it. And I'm going to go in with the boost in that because number one, ribbon's going to give me a valuation on the house, which is going to help because the agents are going to know that valuation. Ribbon's also going to price protect that appraisal valuation, which is huge too, with all the contracts coming in over list price right now. But with that person, I'm able to beat ribbon to the closing table. So the 2% that was on the contract that was going to go to ribbon now becomes 1. Ribbon takes 1. My buyer gets to keep 1, which is big going to the closing table. It's a little bit extra money that they have that they don't have to come up with. That would be one with the boost. A reserve could be, somebody's got a house to sell, and they have to sell that house. They're a contingent offer without selling the house, and you guys know how the market is with contingencies right now. In that situation, we would go on and let ribbon purchase, and then we would sell the house, and then we would buy back from ribbon once that situation remedied itself.
Yep. Love that. So guys, remember, in summary, ribbon boost is 1% of the contract price of the home to buy. Ribbon reserve is 2% in the Carolinas of that home to buy, 2% ribbon fee. The reason you see 2.4%, if you are in Georgia or Tennessee on today's call, it is 2.4% in those specific states.
And I think the thing to remember is that the contract is negotiated just like any normal contract. You're negotiating with your buyer and the seller, and the ribbon fee is 2%. That's always going to be on the contract, and it can be a combination of the earnest money, the due diligence, and the seller pays, because the seller can pay some of the ribbon fee or all of the ribbon fee if you can negotiate it. I know it's a little more difficult right now, but I have gotten a few ribbon contracts recently with seller pays on them because of the appraisal protection. And I think Ryan's going to go into that here shortly as well.
Exactly. One more thing I'll add, guys, remember when you're going ribbon boost, as Terry mentioned, he's beating ribbon's cash. Fairway's beating ribbon's cash to the closing table. Okay. Your buyer's buying it and they're not having to enter the reserve route. You're taking advantage of our 1% ribbon boost product. Just remember, best practice on boost is to get with your specific Fairway loan officer and determine how many days do you need to get that file closed, right? Because Terry, in those situations, I'm sure you're advising maybe 25 to 35 days. That way you have the opportunity to beat the clock. But I know, Terry, we've worked on many files together too, where it was a first-time buyer and the seller preferred a cash and fast closing. And we chose, and the buyer chose to go ribbon reserve, where you go ribbon 14 business day close, cash fast, and then that buyer just simply turns around and buys it back from ribbon as soon as they're able to get financing, and of course, buy back for the exact same price. One thing to remember, guys, with the ribbon transaction, you're still going to have your inspection process and period business as usual. We do require that. So we do require a minimum of 7 days of an inspection period. Also, a due diligence would need to be 7 days, depending on if you're kind of South Carolina, North Carolina. Ribbon will require an inspection be complete. As the agent, your buyer still pays for that inspection. You lean on your inspector relationships. We're not going to tell you who to use. We will require to look at that inspection report. And the why behind that, guys, is as Terry mentioned, we have a guarantee. We have to go into every single ribbon cash offer thinking we will have to buy the home. We have to prepare for it. So if we have to buy the home, remember, we are the owner on record. We bought the home for your client. And so we want to make sure there's not structural, safety, hazardous health items on that inspection report. If we come back and say, hey, CC, there's 2 ribbon required repairs, and you put that on a repair request agreement, you send it over to the seller and the listing agent, and they say, hey, I'm not fixing those 2 items. We're not covering them. Then we can still move forward. We would just need the buyer to sign a ribbon repair acknowledgement agreement in that due diligence period so that we know if it went reserve, the buyer would take care of that ribbon called out required repair prior to taking occupancy. Because if we're calling it out, guys, it truly is a safety or a health item. That's why we're calling it out. And they would need to be complete prior to your buyer taking occupancy if going ribbon reserve.
And you may have mentioned, but I think the reason that you guys have to do that is because you are the seller on the property at the repurchase stage. So if anything came up with the lender in the repurchase or repair that need to be made, then you guys would be on the hook for that. So
Right.
that's why they try to get those repairs made up front on the initial purchase.
Exactly. Once we're through due diligence, guys, that's where that guarantee is kicking in, and we're on our way. All right. So I want to get to a little kind of a sample case study here of how the fees actually play out. That way you can feel really confident about answering questions around what is ribbon's cost of business, who pays it and when. So the example on my screen, I want everyone to kind of follow me along from left to right. Okay. This is an example of let's say a conventional buyer that is pre-approved up to $300,000. Ribbon looks at that property they're interested in making an offer on. Maybe list price was $290,000. We made a $300,000 offer on it together, cash, non-contingent. Okay. Ribbon is going to require at least the minimum 2% ribbon fee be negotiated in the transaction, as Terry mentioned, either in seller paid closing costs or in the form of the buyer's deposits. We will always require the buyer's deposits at least be a minimum of 2% if the sellers are agreeing to $0 in seller paid closing costs. Why? Because remember, we have to go into every offer thinking we may have to buy the house. And what is ribbon's cost of business if we have to buy? It's 2%. That fee, guys, is always reduced to 1% if your buyer can go ribbon boost and get their financing on closing day. So how that actually plays out is you make a $300,000 offer. On your offer to purchase, you'll show $6,000 in deposits. You could have had $4,000 in due diligence, $2,000 in earnest money for a total of $6,000. If Ribbon's going to be the one buying it on closing day, that's Ribbon Reserve. We would wire in $300,000. Okay. We would intercept the buyer's deposit credit of $6,000. That goes to the Ribbon fee. So that's how we collect it. We actually collect it off the settlement statement on closing day. Due from Ribbon would be $300,000. When that buyer goes to buy back from Ribbon, they're going to buy back for $300,000, and we're not asking for any additional deposits. We're going to drop a brand new North Carolina contract with Ribbon as a seller, the buyer as the buyer, and that's when we're going to hand that file to Terry, right? And Terry's going to work to push that file through underwriting, and they're going to be buying back from Ribbon for the exact same price. It's at that point your client would be responsible for their typical loan origination, title, closing costs. Your clients will never pay two sets of closing costs in the reserve. Okay. On the flip side of that, guys, if we're going to go Ribbon Boost, which remember, Ribbon Boost, we always give the buyers the opportunity to get financing with Fairway on closing day. How's that play out? Remember, if purchase price was $300,000, your buyer put down $6,000 in deposits, due diligence was off to the seller, earnest money was off to the attorney to be held in escrow. On closing day, the fee is reduced to 1% if your buyer can buy it. Your clients are now the ones bringing their cash to close. Fairway's wiring in their finance money. Okay. Your buyer would still receive their $6,000 deposit credit, but there will be a debit of $3,000, 1%. That's how we collect our 1% off the settlement statement on closing day. Your buyer bought the house. We helped you guys appraisal protect the contract and provide the sellers with the guaranteed close, helping you win it.
So I'll give you a quick scenario of a deal that we closed recently on the Boost program. And it actually wasn't going to be Boost to start with. It wasn't even my client to start with. It was a client that worked, husband and wife both worked for a large bank. I don't remember the name. I think they had a Stagecoach maybe in their logo. Both worked for the bank. They knew that their bank would not be able to close the loan in time to do the boost, so they did the reserve. So they were going to pay the 2%. This was a $485,000 purchase. So, they were going to give what, $9,000 to $10,000 in the 2%. So their agent, once they went under contract, called me and was telling me about, the contract and stuff. And I told him, I said, man, if they work for that bank, their income numbers are going to be on the work number. I could probably verify income right as soon as I pull the verification, and we can get an appraisal ordered on a rush and probably close that deal in 14 days. And if we do that, that was the turn time for the close for you guys. So I said, if we can close it in 14 days, then we can save them, $4,800 towards the deal that will go back to their closing costs. So we were able to pull them over. We actually got them a little bit better rate than that large bank and closed the deal and saved them $4,800 on it. So they were pretty happy about
it. That's awesome. Heck yeah. It's great. Yeah. See, guys, we would love the boost option to be what you attack, right? That's definitely something in your back pocket. Ribbon reserve, the reason, guys, it goes from 1% to 2%, remember, we're going to cover the first set. So that's not what Ribbon's making on that transaction, but rather that's helping us cover the transaction costs. If your client is going reserve, I do want to make sure we're really clear about the fee structure today, right? Ribbon boost is 1%. There is no rent. There is no reserve because your buyer bought it. If we have to go ribbon reserve, it's the 2% ribbon fee, and there will be a daily rate of rent that's prorated for the amount of days that Ribbon needs to hold the home on behalf of the client. Okay. Every buyer will know exactly what that monthly or daily rate of rent is. And I'll show you exactly where that comes back in this kind of 4-step process. So if you're on today's call, we've kind of reverse engineered it, right? We've showed you, the cash products. We've walked through the fee structure. We've showed you what happens on closing day. I want to start to reverse engineer it into how did we actually get there? So what are the steps and the processes to actually making your next offer a cash non-contingent offer through this program? As the agent, step number 1 is you'll need to create your own Ribbon agent account. We've empowered the Fairway team to create their own loan officer Ribbon account. That way we can all work together as a team in helping more buyers. When you add your buyer into your Ribbon agent account, you're then going to have the opportunity to upload your Fairway pre-approval letter. That Fairway pre-approval letter will then come to the Ribbon buyer underwriting team, and we're going to look at it and note that, okay, this is coming from Fairway. They're very familiar with our process. We can go ahead and grant what we call buying power. Your clients do need to be pre-approved to qualify for this program, right? They need to be in a mortgage eligible state. That pre-approval letter will, let's say Terry sends us a letter with 300, the buyer's qualified up to 300,000. We'll grant buying power up to 300,000. Okay. The next step in the program that either you as the agent or your Fairway loan officer can do is actually add the property that your buyer is interested in making an offer on. These are the 2 steps really important, guys, to making your offer cash and non-contingent. So when you add that property your client is interested in making an offer on, we're going to bring you back what we call a Ribbon valuation. Okay, a Ribbon valuation is not just us clicking a button and spitting out numbers. Okay, we have a valuations team that is going to determine what the maximum offer we can make on that specific home would be. The example I have on my screen is maybe a list price is $291,900. Ribbon comes back and says, hey, Terry, hey, buyer, hey, agent, you can offer up to $302,000 on that specific home. Ribbon would appraisal protect you from 0 to $302,000 on that specific property. Remember, each property is going to have a different valuation, right? Buying power is going to be buying power. So if you set buying power at $300,000 because you upload a $300,000 pre-approval letter and you add a property for $330,000, you technically couldn't make an offer over $300,000 because buying power is not there. So those are kind of the two key pieces to this, guys. And I see a question in the chat that I want to tackle here. And then I'll let kind of Terry just kind of talk through, some questions around this, but that's, how long does it take to get that number back? We are definitely experiencing high volume, high demand on our end for these valuations. One thing I want to make sure everybody knows on today's call is that if this is a priority where you have a highest and best by, 10 a.m. tomorrow morning, like please communicate that to your Ribbon advisor, okay, and or to your Fairway loan officer so that we can prioritize it on our end. We need to understand which homes need to be looked at first so that we can hit your deadlines. Right now, we're setting expectations in the market to turn that within 24 to 48 hours if it is not a priority. So please let us know that. That is really critical to this program. There is no harm, no foul to adding your buyers, uploading your Fairway pre-approval letter, and getting your buyers qualified for the program. You could add a property and not choose to make a ribbon cash offer on it. You could go finance. Then you could add the next property and then make a ribbon cash offer. So you have full flexibility, guys, in this platform. Think it almost like a CRM to manage your buyers for cash offers. Terry, if you want to add anything there.
Yeah, I tell people all the time, you know your buyers well, and if you've showed them 6, 8, 10 properties, and you're going to look at something tomorrow that you think they're going to be interested in making an offer on, go on and put that property into the website today so you can get that valuation back. Ribbon is great about getting them back quickly. Most of the time when I'm involved with a request on it, we get them back in 2 to 4 hours. I've even had some, 8 o'clock at night that we'd have at 10 o'clock that night, we'd have a valuation, but they're like everybody else right now, with time, they're slammed, and it's sometimes a little bit more difficult. So if you can get that request in a little bit earlier. The valuation piece to me is one of the game changers for getting the contracts. That with the appraisal protection to me is huge as far as getting the contracts, because like he's got there, if you've got a list price of $291.9 and everything right now is going over list price, if you have a valuation that's over and you go in with that offer and you can tell the listing agent, hey, we've got a ribbon cash offer on this, Ribbon's going to back the property up to $302,000. They'll actually go over that if your buyer wants to, and Brian can address that here in a second as well. But the valuation piece is huge, because if we go in and Ribbon purchases the property, there's not going to be an appraisal that's going to come into play there, to get in the way of the contract, fully going through. So I mean, that to me is the huge piece of it there. I've got one deal right now that we're closing on a Ribbon repurchase this month. This was new construction. It was listed in Rockwell at $199,000. It's a USDA buyer. So, USDA is going to be probably a 45-day close. Not many USDA contracts because of that. Ribbon gave us a valuation on this property at $219 about a month ago. The buyer's agent called me. He said, what do you think? What should we do with the offer? The buyer had lost several contracts already. She wanted a house. She was willing to pay the $219. I said, I would go in and see if they'll accept $219 with, the seller either paying 1 or 2% of the Ribbon fee. Well, ultimately, the way the deal worked out is they went $219 with my buyer paying the full fee. The funny part about it is the listing agent, who I had no idea was the listing agent at the time, called me, as all this is going on. And it's a agent that I know pretty well. And she called me and she said, I understand you know about Ribbon. Could you give me some details on it? She said, I've been hearing a lot about it. I think it's a good program. I was like, it's a great program. Here's something I've done. This is how it works. And I said, in fact, I've got a deal going on right now. And I said, honestly, if the listing agent doesn't accept this deal, then they're a complete idiot. And she said, well, it's funny you mentioned that. She said, because I'm the listing agent on this deal. And so, of course, we're laughing about it. It's like, hey, don't be an idiot right now, because this is a great deal. This is how this plays out. So that deal is actually in the repurchase phase now. And we got the appraisal back yesterday on our side of the deal. It actually appraised at 221. You guys valued it at 219. It appraised at 221 on our end. So the valuations that I've gotten back from after the fact, when you guys have bought initially, I've not had any issues with properties coming in low. Your guys do a great job on that end of it.
That's awesome. Thanks for sharing that, Terry. Phenomenal story. And I think that's powerful too, right? Like, just being able to have that loan officer relationship with Fairway and Terry to be able to communicate to the listing agent is super powerful, guys, because now, we're taking what Terry and the Fairway team does best, which is qualifying buyers, making sure that they can get financing on closing day, but we're also wrapping it up with a nice ribbon bow on it that's appraisal protected and guaranteed to close. I'm telling you, this is a great opportunity to help you take your conversion rate, really through the roof and be able to win some more contracts. So that's an awesome success story.
Hey, Ryan, there's a question on there in regards to the appraisal too, is, what happens if the house does not appraise when the buyer tries to buy it back? I'll let you address it if you want. I know you guys are doing the appraisal protection. So basically, if that happens, Ribbon is dropping the price to whatever it appraises to in order to sell it back to them, because they've given that valuation up front. So we're price protected should that appraisal come in. So in the USDA scenario just mentioned, there was no risk for my buyer. Ribbon had given us a valuation of 219. If the appraisal had come in at 210, Ribbon was going to drop the price to 210 to sell it to my buyer in the repurchase phase. So it's kind of a no-brainer at that point.
Spot on. Yep, exactly. We're really excited about appraisal protection, guys. That's one of the big updates we wanted to bring you on today's call. In the past, so I believe we recently launched this maybe middle of January, February. So fairly a newer product for us, and one we're really excited about that buyers are taking advantage of. And so I've got an example, exactly as Terry mentioned. Whether you go boost or reserve, your buyers are appraisal protected through the program. If list price was 190, Ribbon comes back and says you can offer 200, but the appraisal came in at 195. If you're going Ribbon boost, we stroke a check to the seller covering the $5,000 difference. Okay. Basically think of it like appraisal gap insurance, maybe the easiest way. We cover that $5,000 difference. We do ask that the contract be amended to the appraised value so that the Fairway team doesn't have any issues with lending on it, but the seller will essentially still get to sell at 200. Okay. And the buyer closes for 195. As Terry mentioned, if we go Ribbon reserve, we simply just reduce the sales price to cover that difference. This is more of a beta for us for sure, and we'll definitely keep you as this progresses. We've got some really great data on our valuations to appraised values, something we feel really confident in, and we'll definitely keep you guys as this progresses or keep you updated. But we're really excited about it. A massive benefit for your buyers and a huge guarantee for the sellers in helping us win more contracts leaving today's call.
When you're looking at FHA buyers, a lot of times the reason the sellers and the listing agents don't want to accept an FHA contract is the appraisal sticks with the house, for 4 months if it comes in low. With the price protection on the appraisal, you can get around that, because now you're going in with a Ribbon offer. Ribbon in this situation here on the screen, they've given a valuation of 200,000. The appraisal comes in at 195. They're stroking a check back to the seller. We're still closing on the deal. So the low FHA appraisal is not a concern, doesn't come into play.
And that's a game changer, right? I like to ask on the call today, if every contract you wrote, guys, from January 1 to March 31st was cash non-contingent, you could remove the FHA badge, the VA badge, and provide a cash offer, but still enable that first-time buyer to win and get financing. How many more offers could you have won, right? How many more offers could we have won? It really is a game changer for these clients to help upgrade.
One of the questions I'll now address is the appraisal and whether you have to have an appraisal or not, if it can be waived. That's ultimately on the lender side of it. And when we run it through the automated underwriting system, it'll tell us whether or not we have to have an appraisal. Generally, if somebody's putting 20% down in today's market, probably 8 times out of 10, we're getting an appraisal waiver on that situation. If they're putting the minimum down, 3, 5, 10, then you're probably going to have an appraisal in that situation. And then cap price for you guys, right? Is it 700 or is it 750 now?
Yeah. So it's 700 currently. 150 to 700K is where we can help your buyers right now. We are actively looking at that 700, and definitely we'll keep the team updated as we progress. But currently we are capped at 700,000.
And another piece that may come up a little bit later too is there are locations that may not qualify. So you can go into the website and put in the address, and they'll tell you if they can make an offer on that property. If you're from pretty much Fort Mill, Rock Hill, all the way up to Raleigh, along the 4085 corridor, you're in good shape. If you get out in some more rural areas, and that's where you may have an issue with making an offer in some of the rural areas.
Yep, for sure. That's spot on. So guys, I wanted to make sure you saw today how you kick off the process. When you create your agent account, this is exactly what you're going to see when you log in. Okay. You'll have a solutions tab, a buying tab, your listing tab, and how it works. We have really updated and done a good job on updating those resources so that you can log into your agent account and constantly grab information, links, resources, videos, things that you need help on to communicate this to a client. How you kick off the process is by going to your buying tab. hitting ribbon cash offer, and that will allow you to add the buyer, upload the pre-approval letter. The Fairway team has a very similar dashboard where they can log in, add the buyer, upload the pre-approval letter, and actually invite you as the agent. Okay. You'll want to let your ribbon advisor know, which you can find in the upper right-hand side of your screen. When you log in, you can see exactly who that is. So in this case, it would be Madison. You can schedule a call with your advisor. You can text, call, email from the account right there up on the upper right-hand side. All right, so I want to make sure we spend some time here for Q&A. That's what I've got on my side. How you actually kick off the process, guys, and get started is by creating your agent account. And you can do that by texting this number, 704-285-1024. You can text the code 89E6, and that will text you back a link in order to sign up. So it'll text you right back a link to sign up. I'm also going to drop in the chat a link just in case anyone has any issues there.
Hey, Ryan, if you guys say, go back to that last slide.
Yep.
I just want to point this out too, because where it's on the selling side on the far right, when you talk about managing your listings, if you're a listing agent and you're having to sort through, 15, 20, 30, 40 offers for your properties that you're listing, get with Ribbon on what their program is to manage your listings. I've seen how it works. To me, it's a game changer for you guys as well, because it pulls in all of the offers, sorts out the data, kicks out a report to you, makes it very convenient online where you can sit and look at it. Makes it pretty simple to go through and sort through your offers if you got multiples. And I know you won't talk about that today, but it's a good resource for you guys if you need that.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Terry, for mentioning that. Yeah, we're excited and definitely happy to come back and do another training on how to leverage that. Be sure to check with your Ribbon advisor if you have more questions on setting up your listing to be able to review all offers really in one spot. Let me grab this link. I'm going to drop this link in the chat, but I want to just go to Q&A. Jordan, CC, feel free to keep an eye on anyone raising a hand. Feel free to unmute at this time, guys. If there's any scenarios, questions that you want to bring up, especially with kind of Terry and his expertise on the program, I want to make sure we give you time to help answer.
Hey, this is Angelina Carew from Clayton, North Carolina.
Hey, Angelina.
Hey, my question regarding the appraisals was, let's say your example, like the house was listed for 190, but we offered 200. And let's say we had to get an appraisal and it did appraise at 200. And so Ribbon closes on the property for 200. Then when the buyer goes to buy the house back from Ribbon, let's say it doesn't appraise at that time and it's like 195. Is the price still guaranteed at that time, even though Ribbon paid 200 for it?
So on that end, you wouldn't actually have an appraisal on the front end. If Ribbon was going to reserve and buy the property, you won't have an appraisal for that one. Ribbon's already given you a valuation. So that valuation is good for what you need. Okay. And then the appraisal would come in when the lender goes to repurchase. When that one comes in low, Ribbon's going to price protect that.
Okay, great. So either way, there's just one appraisal and Ribbon protects the price for whatever their valuation was. Okay. That's right. Yeah. Awesome. Thank you.
I see one question in the chat from Cindy. What is the inspection expectations for Ribbon? Remember, guys, we're going to look for safety and health items. So structural infestations, mold, things that could cause a fire. If we have windows in the master bedroom not opening, right, and we have a fire, that's not good if Ribbon owns the home. So those are types of things that we would call out. We've had an item where garage door, the inspector notes on the inspection report that garage door is not functioning properly, could fall and cause harm to small child. Like those are things we have to get fixed because there's safety issues. So those are our expectations for it. We've created a really great kind of process and procedure around the inspection. Remember, when you win a contract with us, you will have a dedicated transaction coordinator that's working through the inspection with you. So if we come back and say, hey, Angelina, there's 2 Ribbon required repairs, your first approach will be to try and get it signed off from the sellers. And we typically see that because it's a safety or health item. It's really not nitpicking the home, but we understand the market's hot. If the seller says, no, we're not fixing anything, then the buyer can sign off to have that item complete prior to closing day.
I think probably the two biggest, I don't want to call them complaints, but concerns maybe for agents that I talk to that maybe haven't used you yet is in regards to the inspections. I think some of the inspections are going to be too hard. The seller may not go for it, or the valuations, come in low or maybe low. And there's ways around each of those. With the inspection issue, you have to look at it from the standpoint of when they resell the property, they are the owner of the property. So anything that comes up on the lending side that needs to be a repair is going to have to be fixed. They don't want the cost of fixing it because they're not earning that full 2%. They're paying all the closing fees out of that 2% as well. So when they do that original purchase, they're not making the full 2%. And then they're prorating the rent. So they're giving that back, as soon as the borrower closes on the loan. And then have we gone over the 3% difference on the valuation piece?
Oh yeah, no, we have not. One thing to cover, guys, is if the buyer wants to go above and beyond the ribbon max value, we can. We just can't allow that to exceed more than 3% of the ribbon valuation. We consider that internally at Ribbon cash on close. That additional money would have to be added to earnest money deposits if you're going to go above and beyond our valuation.
So think about that, how that impacts you from a contract offer standpoint. I've got a borrower last week who was looking at a $300,000 house. He's an FHA buyer. He's made 5 offers. He hasn't gotten a sniff on any of them. So the house he wants to go in higher, the valuation, I think the house was listed at 295. The valuation came in at 300. The agent said, this is going to go higher than that. Ribbon's allowing us to go 3% over that. So we can go to 309 with that. And Ribbon's still going to price protect at 300. So, when Ribbon buys that house, the contract is going to show a 309 purchase price on it for us. If our appraisal comes in at 309, we're in good shape. We move on just as normal. If the appraisal comes in low, then the borrower already has $9,000 there to help make up the difference of the shortfall. So I think that's huge too, especially when you can go to a listing agent that's a 295 listing and say, we're willing to offer 309. We're using a Ribbon. This is the price that it's going to be with the reserve. You don't have to worry about an appraisal coming in low now. Let's contract on this house and move forward. So to me, that's one of the biggest keys in getting the deals from the buy side is make sure the listing agent knows how it works and make sure they know how the appraisal protection works. That there's typically not going to be an appraisal done up front, in the situation.
Rodney, do you want to go ahead with your question?
Yes, thank you. Hey, Ryan, good to see you again.
Hey, Rodney.
So I have 2 questions. My first one is, you mentioned earlier that Ribbon would actually go and buy the home if it fell through for some reason with our buyer. So what would be the fee sent to the buyer for that?
Great question. So let me help answer that in 2 ways. Number one, if you originate your offer with Ribbon and then buyer loses a job or something were to come up and financing gets delayed, we could roll them from boost to reserve, right? They're not just like out of the game. We hope that they can then get everything they need ready in that 180-day window. So they would just simply move from the 1% product to the 2%. We give them 180 days to buy back. However, I think to answer the other question or make sure I'm getting at it is if we weren't brought into the deal and all of a sudden you had a contract accepted and it's falling out and you want to bring Ribbon in to save the deal, our cost of business is actually 3%. We call that Ribbon rescue if we're coming in after the fact to save the contract.
So let's say, for instance, they lost the job, everything stopped, and then they couldn't even purchase it after the 180 days. Would there be a fee assessed to the buyer?
No fee assessed. They would have been out the 2% Ribbon fee, the 180 days of rent, and Ribbon would need to sell the home and the buyer would need to vacate that property. And we are transparent with buyers in that. There's no additional though, like hard Ribbon fee or any additional fee structure to that.
Okay. And my second question was, so we talked about with the Ribbon boost with the 1%, what day, as far as closing, because you can close real early, but if it takes longer to finance, what day would it go from 1% to 2% and become from the boost to the rescue?
Great question. On closing day is essentially where that happens, because now buyer's money's not coming, Ribbon's money will be coming. We ask that as soon as you get even a sniff or a wind of that, just let the transaction coordinator that you're working with know, so that we can prepare our funds to be able to wire on closing day. So earlier in the process, of course, the better. But that's the benefit in originating your offers with Ribbon. Our addendum, think of it almost as like transaction insurance. It's there to catch if the buyer couldn't get financing. So we are going to be prepping and preparing to buy if we need to.
Okay, thank you so much.
Absolutely. Great questions. Kelly asked a question I want to make sure we get, which is how can we get the evaluation prior to writing an offer? Kelly, really good question. I want to make sure everyone feels good about that. You got to go into your agent account, add your buyer, upload your Fairway approval letter, and add the property that you're interested in making an offer on, right? So to write the Ribbon Cash offer, you have to have buying power and the valuation complete. Without those two things, we can't submit the Ribbon Cash offer.
Hi, Ryan. Do you want to, how would you like the follow-up to happen with any additional questions?
Yeah, great call. Cece, what I was thinking is I can take what we've talked about today. We've got some really good materials that I can kind of extract, bring to the Fairway team to distribute for everyone that signed up for today's call. I would highly recommend you create the agent account, know who your Ribbon advisor is, and work with your specific kind of Fairway loan officer that you're talking to. And feel free to give obviously Terry a ring to talk through a specific situation. If there are more questions coming out of today's call, then I'm happy to kind of walk through those. CC, if you guys want to bottle them up for me,
Okay.
and or Terry can definitely probably be able to answer those as well. But speaking to your Fairway loan officer and or your Ribbon advisor is definitely a great next step in order to help facilitate your scenario you're thinking about.
Okay. Lee Bryant had a question. If they have an account but do not have an advisor, how do they get assigned one?
Lee, great question. Everyone should have an advisor. So if you have an account, you have an advisor, just make sure you log in, Lee, check in the upper right-hand corner, hit need help, and that will show you who your dedicated advisor is. If you have trouble finding it, please reach out to the Fairway team and they can escalate it to me and I can make sure you get taken care of.
Okay.
Hey, Ryan, this is Jeff Gilmore. Seriously, thank you so much. This has been fantastic content. And in my mind, I'm looking at it and thinking, really with as competitive as the market is, any buyer that's calling saying, hey, I've got minimum down payment, I got 3%, I got, we got to go FHA, VA, USDA, those buyers are prime candidates for the Ribbon Boost option. And I've got a loan right now where literally they went in, offered cash with a 2-week close, and we went behind them and did financing in that time. So I know this stuff works. In your mind, I just would love to hear it. And so when an agent calls the list agent to say, hey, I'm submitting an offer for my buyer, do you have a general script or a general idea of like, hey, how do you have the agent tee this up to where it's like, oh my God, why would I not want to accept this? Because you're rolling with cash. I'm just curious, how would you coach these agents on presenting the offer to the seller's agent?
Jeff, that's phenomenal. So guys, one piece to the puzzle you're going to get when you're submitting the offer is what we call our seller cover letter. That cover letter is going to be top of the stack. That's going to help really talk up to the seller and the listing agent about the type of offer that they're receiving: appraisal free, financial contingent free, with the guaranteed close. I highly suggest be sure to either have your Fairway loan officer on that call with you or your Ribbon advisor on that call with you to make sure that there aren't any additional questions. We are seeing a even higher offer acceptance rate, especially in Terry's use case, when you're able to get a hold of that listing agent and really walk them through how strong this offer is, right? We don't have like a gotcha or a gimme in this program. This is a legit offer that's designed to help sellers know that this thing's going to close. They're going to net the most amount of proceeds, and it's going to go to a local buyer. So I think, Jeff, that's great feedback. That cover letter is what I would really lean on to have that conversation. I would lean on the Fairway team and the Ribbon advisor as well.
Jeff, it's kind of a follow-up too. I mean, you mentioned the different deals. USDA and VA are probably two of the best deals right now to use Ribbon for. Because if you use USDA or VA on the repurchase, there's no money down. So if you have a buyer who has a little bit of money and wants to make an offer on a house, if they have the 2%, that we can use Ribbon to get the contract, because Ribbon's going to go in with a 14 business day cash close. You'll have the appraisal protection, all of that. There's not going to be a stronger offer out there than that offer. And if the buyer pays the 2% there, and there's no flip rule on USDA or VA, so we can start the repurchase the next day after Ribbon buys the house. We can start the repurchase and have those buyers in the house 30 to 45 days later. And we can either use down payment assistance if they qualify, or we can use the interest rate and do a lender credit within the interest rate to pay most of their costs for them then, and keep, their costs either lower or have them bring no money to close. And they had the strongest offer with a 14-day close. Then we're closing for them on the repurchase in 30 days. It's a 45-day process. That's what you would have probably had on a USDA offer that they're not going to get the contract for anyway. The thing to remember with an FHA repurchase is there is the flip rule, which means they can't repurchase for 91 days. You have to go under contract day 91, but you also have the identity of interest clause, which says if they're going to repurchase from the person they're renting from, then in order to use the maximum FHA financing, which is 3.5% down, they have to rent from them for 6 months. They can buy it earlier with an FHA, but they have to put 15% down, and you still have to be outside of the 90-day period. Most FHA buyers are not putting 15% down. So all of mine, I'm prepping, you're going to rent from them for 6 months and buy it in month 7. So just remember that going into the FHA. But USDA and VA, it's kind of a no-brainer. Use it, get the quick contract, and move forward and get them into the house for a little out of pocket on the repurchase.
Yeah. In my mind too, it's like when you have conventional buyers, and I've had tons of them here recently where they're offering, whatever, 350, 400, 450, 500, and they're just getting beat out. It's like, man, go in with a cash offer closed in 14 days or 21 days, and then let us come behind them and knock it out with financing. Because again, more oftentimes than not, they're really good, clean buyers, and you relay that to the seller's agent, but it's so competitive. I just think that cash offer definitely gets your offer with if a seller's agent and a seller are sitting there entertaining 15, 20, 30 different options, 30 different offers on their house, you bet your bottom that those cash offers are rising to the top. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, hey, this one's straight cash. We need to really seriously think this. So I just think it's a huge competitive advantage to help secure the property. So,
well, I hate to keep going back to the appraisal protection, but from a listing agent perspective, if every offer we've got is going over list price, and Ribbon's giving you a valuation that's $30,000 over list, and that's your offer, why would you not even look at that offer? Yeah. You're protected to that point. They're going to cut a check back to the seller for any difference there. And that's huge to me. If you don't have to worry about the appraisal in today's market.
That's huge. That's absolutely huge. Thank you. Seriously, guys, that's fantastic content. So thank you.
Yeah.
For that.
I know Ryan has to jump off. So we hope you enjoyed this hour with us, with our experts, Ryan and Terry. Thank you so much for joining us, everybody. You'll be getting some information from me. Look out for that in your email. Look out for my texts. And if you have any questions, feel free to email me, cc.kellogg@fairwaymc.com. Everyone, have a safe day out there. It's raining. Stay dry. Take care.
Thanks so much, team.
Thank you,
Appreciate
guys.
it.